Okay, let's take a look at the effects of a tariff in the large country case. The way we think about the large country case is that we think of the home country as trading with the rest of the world, which we'll just call the foreign country. So the home country, in the absence of trade, has a high price, and the rest of the world, the foreign country, in the absence of trade, has a low price. So when they can trade, as the price goes up, the foreign country has an excess of supply over demand, and so that's their export supply curve. So we see that right here. And the home country, for different prices, as we see here, for example, they'll have a demand greater than supply at that price, so that's their import demand curve. So in the middle here, we have imports and exports, so that's the world market for imports and exports, and that's what determines the domestic prices in both home and the rest of the world. And so we have that equilibrium price there, where imports, the demand for imports equals the supply of exports. So now we want to say, well, what happens if there's a tariff placed on this good? So the tariff drives a wedge between the price that the price that the consumers in the home country pay and the price that exporters receive. So exporters receive whatever the world price is, and consumers in the home economy have to pay that world price plus the tariff. So if we go over and just focus on the home country and the export market, so just those two, and not worry about the foreign market, we have something that looks like this. So we can imagine, we can think about, well, what happens when we put the tariff. So we've measured the tariff here by T. So we can think of that as it's analytically useful to think of that as a shift up of the export supply curve. And the exporters receive, they're going to receive whatever the world price is. So let's suppose that the world price remains at its original price, let's call it PW. So exporters continue to export that much, but what happens to the demand for imports? Well, remember, importers, the people who are receiving imports, don't pay PW, they pay PW plus T. So the consumers in imported countries only want to consume this much. That's their demand for imports. So we have a gap now. Exports are much bigger than imports. The supply of exports is bigger than the demand for imports. And so the world price will fall. So now we have to ask ourselves, well, how much does it fall by? Let's imagine that it first falls just by a little bit. So we'll imagine that the world price falls by this much. So the world price falls by that much. So now export supply is this much. And now we look and see, well, if we add T to that, how much is import demand? So import demand, we've added T. Import demand is still less than export supply. So the price is going to fall, again, a little bit more. So we go and drop the price a little bit more. And at this world price, now, the export supply would be this much. Importers, we add the tariff here. Importers face, the consumers face that price, and now we find that the demand for imports is exactly equal to the supply of exports, and so we are now in equilibrium. So the world price falls. The price plus the, let's call that P star, and then P star plus the tariff is the price that domestic consumers face. So remember, before we had PW, so we have P star plus T is the price that consumers face. So we can think about now what happens to the welfare effects of this tariff. Well, let's switch colors here. there's a loss of consumer surplus. Remember, consumer surplus is the area above the price line, below the demand curve. So that's the loss of consumer surplus, that trapezoid there. There's a gain in producer surplus, and let's change our colors again. So there's a change in producer surplus, right? That's given by the area above, below the price line, above the supply curve. So that's the change in producer surplus. We can measure here the tariff revenue. So this square is the tariff revenue. But remember, this square also is tariff revenue. This square, or rectangle, sort of below that. So that's also tariff revenue, because the price now is P star. So the tariff is all of this distance here. So this is extra tariff revenue. And then we have our usual deadweight losses here, and our deadweight loss here. So now this triangle and this triangle are losses, but this rectangle here is tariff revenue that isn't being offset by the loss of consumer surplus. So the effect of the tariff depends on whether the price falls enough so that these deadweight losses then are small, and this extra tariff revenue that we collect is large. In that case, we may be better off from the tariff. So in the large country case, the country could actually be better off from the tariff.